So oddly, my first case study in my marketing class involved music. And I actually instantly knew the solution to this case because of real life experience, but I never got a chance to show the professor. Every week there'd be a case study, and we'd read this case study and then come into class and discuss it. And you got graded based on your class participation. And I had my hand out for this thing the whole time, and I only got called on once for this really obvious question. And to this day, I wish I'd have said, well, I can answer that question, but I have the solution to this case and I'd like to present it. And I didn't do that. And had I done that, I probably would have gotten an A in the class, although actually Wharton doesn't have A, B, and C. They have distinguished pass, high pass, and pass. So I would have gotten a distinguished in that class, probably, if I had solved that first case. These case studies came from real life. And for some reason, some of them, they made up a fake name for the company, but other cases, they used the company's real name. And in this case, they used the real name of the company, which was Pioneer Audio. So back in the 70s and 80s, there were these audio shops. And if you wanted to buy a stereo system, that's where you would go. You wouldn't go to Best Buy because there was no such thing. So the problem was that Pioneer was a nationally advertised brand and everyone knew the name and you could buy it at any one of these audio stores, but they weren't getting the sales. And they were finding out that stores were advertising Pioneer, but then when the customers would come in, they'd push some other brands. So Pioneer would bring the customers in, but then they'd end up buying something else. And being a music lover, I had decided to buy a pretty decent stereo system a few years earlier. And I had this roommate who had this friend who had this really high-end system, which was like a $5,000 system. So that would be like $50,000 in today's money. And I wasn't going to spend that amount, but I still wanted to buy something nice. But he told me which store he went to buy that high-end stereo. So I went there just to check it out and see if they had anything that I could afford. And when I was there, these salespeople from another audio company came in. They were trying to pitch him these new speakers. And I remember they were called DCM Time Windows, which really sounds audiophile, elite, and futuristic. They played some music on these speakers. And to me, it sounded pretty good. But then when the salespeople left, I remember the owner talking to his associate saying, we're not going to get these speakers because they're carried at other places and they're discounted everywhere. So when I saw this case, I realized, well, that was the problem. There was no profit margin on Pioneer because they were too widely distributed. It was priced like a commodity. So I knew that this was the answer. And the answer was to not sell the Pioneer at every store, to be selective like other brands were doing. But I missed my chance to solve the case and make a good first impression on my marketing professor.